Chair recognizes Mr. Perry a sandwich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the members. And I am very excited about this new term. I am just full of energy because I am hearing from our legislative leaders and our governor that a new day has dawned on Beacon Hill. One of ethics reform, one of rules reform, one of transparency. And so I believe that this is going to be a great term with new things to come. And as we are in our rules debate thus far today, I'd like to take a look at how we're doing so far. We've had two opportunities to increase the public disclosure of our Ethics Committee. One regarding just the number of complaints. One regarding when a complaint makes the newspaper, makes the media, that we should talk about it a little bit, just a little. No names, just reports. Those two efforts to increase public disclosure regarding our own ethical behavior were shot down. Then we moved on to a new nonpartisan approach. Let's get the partisanship out of the ethics issues on Beacon Hill. Let's make it really about ethical reform and not about Democrats or Republicans. 4-4, let's take the ethics out. In this new day of ethics reform, transparency, and rules reform, we rejected that as well. Then we go on to say, let's think about ways that we can get the political wrangling and undue influences out of the local bill process. We all have had local bills who have had, let's say, unusual journeys along the way. I hearken back to my Sagamore flyover bill with a representative from Wareham and Falmouth and some alleged shenanigans that went on with a local bill. So let's take a piece of that out of the procedure and let's make sure they get to the floor within a certain amount of time in this new day of ethical reform, transparency, and rules reform. Apparently that wasn't appropriate to do. And then we continued on and said, how about having a little bit longer to debate? How about having a little bit longer for a roll call? How about having some time to get up from the committee? Or maybe even have committee hearings on days when we don't have formal sessions. None of those are good ideas to the majority in this room. So let's be proactive. Now, harken back to last session when we had some issues with our voting system and we had a commission formed. And we had, I hate to use the wrong word, but pledges or promises or maybe suggestions that when we came back this term, we were going to have an electronic, secure voting system where the integrity of the institution would be first and money would be second. And in this day of transparency, ethical reform, and rules reform, I expected to come in this session and see some new type of electronic voting system. So it has happened in the past, couldn't happen again. We don't have that. It's been rejected under a guise of a financial crisis. So then we say, okay, well, if we can't have a machine do it, how about if we monitor ourselves? Amendment number 12. How about we say to ourselves that we are in charge of this institution and we don't want unethical things happening in this chamber, and we will pledge to each other that we will monitor it, we will report it, and we will take care of our own business. And in the day of ethical reform and transparency and rules reform, no, no, no. So, we don't want to be proactive. We don't want new rules to monitor ourselves. We don't want new equipment. How about punishment? That's what this amendment's about. We don't want to be proactive. We don't want to change things to add credibility to the institution. Well, how about punishment when something does happen? This amendment deals with that. It has 4 parts. The first part says that when a member attempts to or does vote for someone else, they would be publicly censured. The second part says that if a non-member votes, a staff member, whoever finds their way into the chamber, that they would be barred from that chamber. They would be barred from access to the chamber. The third part says, let's put some of the responsibility back on us that we must notify the clerk if we're not going to be here, so our machines can be locked, and we're taking the responsibility for our own voting integrity. And if you don't do that and a vote happens on your machine, you, as the person who failed to notify the clerk, would be censured. And the fourth part gives some important powers to the clerk to make sure that the records of this House are accurately reflect what's going on with the voting. I am not naive. I know the outcome of this vote, but I am disappointed. This is our first chance to send a message to the citizens of this Commonwealth. Are we serious about ethics reform? Are we serious about rules reform? Are we serious about transparency? Or, as it's been said from this podium time and time again, it's just a movie. I hope that this amendment is adopted and we take a small step towards restoring the credibility of this institution in the eyes of the people of Massachusetts. And when we do so, I ask that this vote be taken by a call of the yeas and nays.
Mr. Perry moves when a vote.